So, hi, my name is Brad Garson. I'm with ACG. I'm with the CTO Circle here in Silicon Valley. And today we have an esteemed panel led by Tanya. And just going to give you a little bit of information about ACG. So ACG is an international organization with 61 chapters across the country, with 3,000 members and 15,000 affiliates. So nice big broad organization of venture capital, PE, private equity, and M&A companies. And the idea of the CTO Circle is to bring innovative and interesting topics to the forefront so that people can learn what's happening on the cutting edge and leading edge. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about AI and some leadership insights. So I'll leave it to Tanya, who's going to be moderating, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ruin this. Well, why don't you hand me my water I left back there? So that's the way we're going to roll. We're just going to be natural, because I cannot.
Setting the pace.
Anyone who has ever seen me on a stage, oh, that must not be mine, because mine was fresh.
Oh, there we go.
Is it full? And thank you. You can speak, Yvonne. You're not. We know you're back there. So, and thank you. I don't want to pop those nails off of mine. So I want to thank, as we start, I'll thank you guys in a minute, but I want to thank Brad. We are here this afternoon because there is a CTO Circle in ACG, and we were deciding content for the rest of the year. And Brad was adamant, we had to do AI because, you can't talk about anything tech without talking about AI. But Brad was adamant that we needed to have a women in AI panel. He was absolutely just, I couldn't move him away from it. So we are here to talk about AI, and you don't even have a daughter, I don't think.
I do.
You do have a daughter, okay, fine.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have a daughter.
so we are here because Brad saw the significance and the importance of women in AI. And then of course he delegated it. So no, he's always there to support. But we're here because he wanted to have something that focused on women in AI. And then as I started to think about how, because we couldn't have a man leading a conversation about women in AI. What occurs to me over the last 9 or 10 months that I'm seeing lots of women lead technical programs. But the real way I'm seeing women come out is in their leadership. And in particular with how they build community. I think the real opportunity for and with women is how they connect, how they act and behave cross-functionally. And of course the phone's going to ring now. How they see around corners and work with other organizations, how they work with other functions. As we've always known that AI is very cross-functional, cross-vertical. As we see AI come into play and become real in how it's hitting businesses, I think we're recognizing that the impacts and the opportunities with AI are also becoming cross-cultural and cross-generational. And in these ways, I think women are uniquely qualified to bring their skills of connection to bear. And so as we started to ideate, what should a panel focused on women in AI deliver, I didn't want it to be about product. I wanted it to be about the intersections of women delivering community. And so that's how we brought this focus. I posted on LinkedIn yesterday something that I think I deliberately posted it yesterday to be a set for this. Did you see that?
No, I don't know.
Maybe. Lynn Casey is a dynamo, and she's a friend of ours. She's a friend of ours down in Los Angeles, and she had been to the Berkshire Hathaway annual stockholders meeting that was last week and was on fire. And Mr. Buffett had led a conversation with a new word that I want us to all become familiar with. And I'm going to quote Lynn. I'm just going to read it to you because I think it's worth us knowing about. Mr. Buffett used a term that was new to me. This is Lynn talking. Aperceptive mass. It's a psychology term that references the whole of a person's previous experience that is used in understanding a new precept or idea. He, meaning Mr. Buffett, he leans into what he already knows and in his ability to learn and do new things. It gives him the courage to study new businesses, meet new people, and make judgment calls that carry a lot of weight. I believe this is an incredibly powerful concept. So often today, we see leaders drowning in charts and reports, proudly sharing that theirs is a data-driven business. That's not leadership. Our role as leaders is to build on the intellectual and emotional capital we've accrued over the years. To take in new data, yes, but to use that to inform our decisions, not simply just hand over the reins. We achieve leadership status because of how we think, how we question, how we survey, and how we consider. We learn, and then we lead. We don't climb into the back seat of a self-driving vehicle. We take the wheel and we drive. And I loved that post from Lynn. And my response to that when I co-opted it, and then wrote about it, was that AI isn't just about automation. And it's not just about complex coding. It's not only about the cross-functional redesign of processes and the rewiring of how organizations work. AI, it's about all of it. And it requires the collective wisdom of generations, cultures, verticals, and experiences to harness its promise and achieve our full potential. Our aperceptive mass, both individually and collectively, will lead us to the success that AI enables. And I really feel strongly that us thinking collectively in terms of using the wealth of our experience and where we've come from is what leads us to create community, to be able to reach broadly beyond where we sit today. We reach back and we reach forward. That often leads to creating the connectivity of community. And so we've assembled this panel because they create community. And as much as I would love to introduce you guys, because I feel like I know you so well, you have to introduce yourself because you need to tell them about what you're doing to bring community to AI. As you do that, yes, as you do that, I'd invite you to consider yourself a fairy godmother.
Oh my.
So if you'd introduce yourself, talk about what you're doing with AI, and then the fun question is, if you're a fairy godmother and you could erase a myth, a myth of what do people think of AI that you wish that you could erase. There's your magic wand.
Wow.
What would you change with the world as the fairy godmother?
Feeling very powerful
You
right
are
now. Thank you so much, Tanya, and thanks for having us. Look forward to this discussion. So I literally have left corporate life to focus on ensuring that that AI is built and governed and leveraged with humanity's best interest in mind. I'm producing a documentary. We're just in the pre-production stage right now and building an associated impact campaign called the Humanity Code. I do have a background. I've been in tech for about 20 years, and prior to that I was in media, Business Week magazine and the like. And my waving my magic wand, as I've been focused on driving factors for the Humanity Code, the biggest myth that I hope that we can collectively bust is the myth that each of us individually don't have agency in shaping AI or influencing our future with AI. There's a common perception and notion, as it's based on fact, that there are, a handful of tech leaders running AI companies, and it's all in their hands. Our fate is in their hands. And that, yes, that's correct, that there's a handful of companies that are running these AI companies, and government policy makers who are also influencing it. And every single one of us has a role, if not, I would say an obligation, in making sure that we are influencing AI both in how we use it and how our companies use it and govern it, in what our policymakers, our government organizations are doing. So that's the biggest myth I hope that we bust, because if we do, I think that we will have the positive outcome with humanity with AI that we all want for humanity. And if we don't, then I fear a little bit more of the dystopia might be more likely. So
Awesome.
there's your one.
Thank you very much. Really lovely to be here. Thanks, Tanya, for the fantastic setup, and really appreciate your sentiments as well, and would build on that. My name is Megan Groves, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Population. We're a spatial computing company that uses, let's say, AIoT to improve the health of a physical space and to gain data on that, use that information for business managers to help them improve air quality, operations, and a number of other kind of, let's say, ESG-related factors. I think if I were to wave my magic wand, I believe that, and again, this to kind of build on what you're saying, so much, I think, of the current thinking around AI is that, AI is sort of just something that gets developed by engineers in a corner or on a floor 4 of the building, but that it's not something that is collaborative. And I think this is very much the nature of this whole discussion, where more than ever there's an opportunity for us to come together as different different types of leaders, ethics and governance and technology and other go-to-market roles and so on, and to really collaborate more than ever on how we use it inside of our organizations. So it's not something that's just kind of relegated to the people who know how to write code. In fact, arguably, it's becoming more accessible for even those of us who don't write code. So that's really, I think, exciting. And if I had kind of a 0.5, I would say that the other myth that I would bust is that AI is either inherently ethical or inherently unethical. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more in detail, but I think there's kind of a lot that we can do to sort of interrupt that thinking. So pass the magic wand to you.
Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone. I'm Renee Siegel. I'm a partner for the growth office at Armanino, a top 20 consulting firm. My background, though, is really about 30 years of tech marketing and communications. So I ran my own consulting firm for about 20 years and merged into Armanino, which was interesting and jarring and challenging, because now I'm not just focused on tech. I'm working across all vertical industries and all different types of companies. So it's been a fascinating journey. And I think for me, waving the magic wand, I'm still encountering people daily who think the robots are going to take their job. And I know that's a very oversimplified, overused expression, but to me, that's why I became so passionate about AI. I wanted to figure out, what is it about this technology? I'm old, I've been around several decades in this valley. There's always something new. What is it that I need to know about AI so that I can leverage it, stay ahead of the game, right? Deliver the kind of cutting edge services that I've done previously in my life. And I recognized how many people are still so intimidated, and across all different skill sets of our organization and all throughout our entire client base as well. So that part has been really interesting for me.
Do you want your magic wand?
No, you hold it. Because you opened up the next question.
Okay.
I had it for all of you, but I think we'll start with you. You've all been in leadership for a long time. We are old. So
Seasoned, right?
seasoned, wise,
Experience.
Yes, all those things. More adjectives, please. There's a word cloud for me. I can see it in the hologram. But for me, I think leadership changes with AI because of the cross functionality. How have you experienced it changing in the last 12 months, 18 months?
Wow, well, it's interesting because just because someone is a leader does not mean that they're acting as a leader and embracing and staying ahead of this curve, ahead of the technology, right? There's still so much FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there, so much intimidation. So that's been, for me, a personal challenge. And a little story, my boss, first I discovered ChatGPT and I started playing with it. And being a content creator, right, I was fascinated by how quickly I could now whip up a LinkedIn post, right? And I was excited to tell my boss, who heads up the growth office. And it took me almost 3 weeks. The guy's busy. He's zipping by my office, right? And finally one day he was on his way to the men's room and I said, hold it, get in here, 5 minutes. And I showed him just a quick preview of ChatGPT. He was preparing actually for a speech. So we put together a quick outline for speech, and of course his jaw hit the table, right? And it completely changed his perspective, and now there was curiosity. Now he was ready to embrace something that he hadn't been exposed to. That was the kind of passion that fueled what I was trying to do, what I'm still trying to do at my firm. Recognizing that the technology's out there. Yes, we may provide technology to clients, but that's a small subset of the organization. That leadership, with the capital L, right, may still not be caught up. And that intimidation, that lack of just play, curiosity, may be holding them back. So I really, I wasn't planning on it, but because I was so curious and because I was playing, I wanted to pull other people into that and see their eyes light up as well and their jaws dropped. And that's a thrill. That's a thrill, and it's a gift, I think, not technical and again, not planned, but I think it's something that I enjoy doing for clients, for my firm, but also for students as well, because we assume that these young people are jumping all over it. They're not. They're still hanging back as well. So we talk about generations of people. Universally, right, there's a lot of hesitation still.
Have the two of you seen leadership changing in the field?
Yeah, I would
You
say
don't
I
have to.
think so.
We're not using that as
The metaphoric microphone,
If it works, it's not working.
It does work.
It does
There's
work.
There's something very
Powerful.
If you guys like the
Yes.
selfie stick, you're welcome.
I'd say I think actually it's quite interesting. There are sort of, in my view, two different trends that are emerging, and they're kind of opposing one another. So one, I think, is that there's the ability for leadership to become, let's say, or for Gen AI to be democratizing. And on the exact opposite turn, there's also the opportunity for it to become, let's say, hierarchy upholding or hierarchy enforcing. So I think this is something that leaders need to really be mindful of, and yes, set examples. But there's we now can all sort of access tools that we previously could, or superpowers that required specific technical knowledge or domain expertise, or even kind of creative skill. But that's becoming this notion of it. We all sort of gain access to create things that we previously couldn't create, or just again, kind of this notion of democratization, I think, is one element of leadership that's worth considering. And then on the exact opposite, we have this ability potentially for Gen AI to uphold some of the kind of existing structures, assumptions. It's no secret that the kind of data in is is a really important factor, you know, to consider in terms of what you're getting out of it. And, you know, most of the, I think, kind of public dialogue around ethics in AI is really concerned with that kind of quality and breadth of data and representation and so on. So I actually watched a TED Talk the other day, and there was this fellow who was talking about algocracy. And I thought that was such a great term for it. Just, you know, the kind of the algorithm as really upholding traditional bureaucratic systems because of, you know, how it's you know, it's locking in and reinforcing kind of a specific status quo. And so unless you kind of come together in that really, you know, democratized manner, it is possible that you know, some of the same stereotypes and some of the same ways of doing things and even kind of decision making becomes you know, very pyramid. So
I'll pass on. Well, I'm just going to keep the magic wand. I actually don't think leadership is changing fast enough. And I've had the vantage point. I ran marketing for Singularity University for a couple of years in the mid, you know, like around 2015, and exactly what we were doing, we're training leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs on the crazy pace of technological change and how to lead through that, how to leverage technology for good. And so I had kind of early exposure to what was required. And, you know, November 30th, 2022 came around, and all of a sudden AI is in literally all of our hands, and people were just shell-shocked, you know, just did not know what to do with it. And I was at the time working at a company that made software for state and local government, which, as you can imagine, that's almost the antithesis of Singularity University. And Singularity, we were living in the, you know, future. In state and local government. It's like, how do we get out of the past? And so within it, I sort of became, you know, a little bit like what you're doing, Renee, a catalyst within the company saying, hello, this is big, got to pay attention. And, you know, AI is not going to take your jobs, but it's the people who don't use AI that, you know, are going to lose their jobs. And so I, both at a team level, I literally had my team go back and think about how, and use ChatGPT or whatever to identify ways that they can use it in their particular function. And at first it was like, giving me this great assignment. But then it came back and everybody had so many ideas, and they had things they implemented right away. So then my team became kind of like the catalyst within the organization. And again, other executives are kind of like, what is this idea up to? You know, it's kind of crazy. But it got to the point where government was then like, oh, tell us more, we want to learn. This is our opportunity to leapfrog. And, you know, so we built it into our customer conference. So the net of that, all of that, I would say, is what leaders need most, in my opinion, right now to be doing is inspiring curiosity and encouraging curiosity, so that's, you just have to be experimenting. You use the word play, you just have to be doing that all the time. And also building into their teams and into themselves, quite frankly, adaptability, because we think the pace of change is really fast now. We haven't seen the least of it. And so we just have to be able to deal with whatever comes next. So that, you know, kind of going back to what Buffett talked about, it's just, we've got to be, help each other be ready for what's to come.
Strap in, people.
Yeah, exactly, buckle up.
Right? I was thinking about your myths, and the myth that really annoys me, and you all touched on it, is the one around, you've got to be super technical to be competent with AI. And we talked about this when we did our prep call, and I have Renee's permission to do this. But, you know, Renee, you know, I'm so proud of you, because the work you've done, I mean, you are on this side of the table, the one who doesn't have a deep history in technology.
Correct.
And yet, you have just taken this like a duck to water. I mean, really, my southernness is showing. But you embraced it as, you know, so many people, even people in tech, are just like, oh, I'll do that when, you know, when I'm drug into the room and I have to. And you're out teaching classes to groups of people, begging them to use this technology, and you've been fearless about it. What do you think it is about how you've engaged with teams that has made you successful? What would you offer out to others that has helped you be heard? Because you don't have credentials.
Correct.
That would help anyone listen to you. So
Right.
what helped you? Sorry,
I object.
There's arrogance. There's arrogance in the technical
I'm a
community.
marketing person.
Right? And I think
Absolutely.
there's gonna be a lot more of this, because I think there's gonna be, wisdom is gonna be heard. I'm convinced of that. So, share with us, what has been your secret sauce?
I don't know that I would call it secret sauce, but I've always hated the idea of being a dinosaur. I mean, I was in line at San Jose State with borrowed money from my grandmother getting the first Macintosh. I have always just been an early adopter. I've loved working in Silicon Valley my entire career because, yeah, I'm seeing the cool stuff that grandma's gonna know about, 10 years from now or 5 years from now, right? I've just had a passion. Again, not a deep dive technical passion, but the actual, how is this impacting our life? And when I started hearing about AI, it was out there for a while, right? But it wasn't until ChatGPT came about, and again, my role as a thought leader and a content creator for the firm gave me an excuse to play, to try it and play. And that's when the bells and whistles came up. And I've always had a passion too for lifting other people. I've been an adjunct professor. I have 3 kids. I'm like, come on, let's go, right? I'm dragging people who may not be, right, as excited as I am. So I don't really know how to explain it other than immense curiosity, a deep passion for helping people be their best, do their best in whatever the heck their field is, right? Finding the aspect of whatever that new thing is and making it come to life, making it apply to something they can relate to. I don't care if, I talked to one partner who's a Boy Scout leader, and we were able to sit down and in 5 minutes come up with 15 different ideas for activities for ages 10 through 12, including like supply lists of things to buy for, just blew his mind. My 80-year-old stepmother, speaks at her church all the time. And she wanted to know what AI was. And I said, well, what do you talk about at church? She said, well, sometimes I have to talk about the Eucharist. And I said, I have no idea what that is, but let's play. And I said, you're talking to middle schoolers about the Eucharist. Please use a pop culture reference to make it relatable. And Harry Potter, boom, right? The language changed everything. Just that. Just to be able to find that spark in other people. Of course, hearing you speak and learning about governance and risk and all of that opened my eyes as well. But this is the journey, you can jump on anywhere as the train is zipping by and still learn and still apply that curiosity to whatever role you have. So that's my passion right now. It's helping people within my firm as well as clients, top executive clients who are afraid or embarrassed even to admit that they don't have the first clue either, right? Where do you go for that?
So you met people where they were. You with the things that they were personally passionate about and interested in.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to, right? It's one thing to learn when it's something esoteric and academic. It's another if you can bring it to someone at a personal level. And that's what I try to do, and I'm doing it on a one-to-one or one-to-many basis, but I'm certainly not a technical expert. And so if it's not ChatGPT, I felt like we needed a sticker for our Bay Area sales team. So I played on Midjourney, I played on Dolly. I have 0 graphic design skills, but I used words and came up with this really cool looking sticker that was made entirely with AI. And then I showed a boatload, hundreds of people, and told them that I created it on AI. And they could too. Again, just, you gotta start small, I think, and make it comfortable.
Curiosity, passion, meeting them where they are. Beautiful. Thank you. Megan, you didn't have the same inroads when you converted people, I don't think. Because you were working with different industries. You were working with industries that in my assessment were maybe slower to move. Construction, for a more simplistic word, supply chain. Traditionally, those groups don't embrace change quite as fast. So, and you had to move product into, high-end, higher thinking product involving AI and IoT into those realms. You couldn't get them to choose their passion. So how did you go about, first, what did you learn about driving change and trying to get those groups to adopt practices around AI outside of tech-focused organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and just for a little bit more context, we sell into commercial real estate and food service. A lot of these headquarters are based in the Midwest, and they, I think are very skeptical of somebody from Silicon Valley with, a connected solution that is speaking a language that, that they don't really understand. And so I think just, first order of business is to and which is a great rule of thumb, regardless of what you're doing, just to speak in, layperson terms and to be very focused on kind of the value as opposed to the technology and, to be relatable. I mean, there have been times where I've kind of felt a little bit like a Silicon Valley stereotype on the other side of the Zoom, and I think kind of focusing on what they care about, thinking a lot about business outcome as opposed to just sort of even describing how it works. I think that's really critical because at the end of the day, AI is a very cool enabler, but it's not, inherently valuable in and of itself. And I mean, that's my point of view. I think, it's foundational technology that allows us to unlock a lot of other capabilities, and can be, meaningfully transferred to business value. But it's not like, unless you're unless you're fundraising and you're sitting in a room of VCs, AI doesn't really, it doesn't matter that you're doing an AI solution. It really matters, that you have these great capabilities, or that you're able to, get, respond to somebody quickly with the information that they're interested in, or, that you're kind of delivering something that they care about. So, so I think that's one thing, or maybe two things. One is to kind of, speak more accessibly, and then of course the other thing is just always really focus on the value that your technology is enabling, as opposed to just, what the thing itself is. I think another thing that's worth considering is, there's also this sort of irony where in some cases the solution's not adopted unless it's sort of able to bring capabilities that previously weren't feasible. So even if somebody's not aware that it's kind of AI driving that, there's we actually had to kind of move into something that was smarter and that was capable of kind of surfacing data that they otherwise wouldn't have, because the existing tool set wasn't sufficient in driving that value. So again, I think and we're kind of a small, we're a very small team, so even sort of the way that we can produce documentation or surface insights, is enabled by these different technologies. And so again, it's like we had a choice of doing a dashboard, for example, where we could show our customers, display with yet another set of graphs and pie charts certain data sets that were meaningful to them about operations or about kind of the health of their physical environment. And we sort of realized that based on kind of their workflow, they needed things very easily accessible at their fingertips, on very fast tack. And so we decided actually, after kind of a lot of customer discovery, to bring that that information to them, not in something cumbersome that they would have to basically become data analysts or experts in, but to use a very kind of query style, GPT style, query based way of getting their information. So that was actually one thing that we ended up doing for our front end, was building a very simple language model where they could say, they could ask basic questions about, what are their biggest food safety risks, for example, or what are their top 3 priorities that they need to be made aware of for this given time frame. And so that proved to be something that was really compelling, and then again, they're not focused on, oh, this is using a language model, how does it actually work, but they're like, oh, hey, this is something simple, I can kind of fly by, ask a quick question, and it's really tailored to my use case in the moment, and it's not one more kind of system that I have to sit in front of and spend an hour kind of wading through the data around. So I think kind of framing the solution in a way that's much more natural to them is also really helpful. So I was a little bit long-winded, but
No, I think it's excellent, because for me, I think we get really caught up in our tech bubble out here.
yeah.
And so I love hearing about this, because I often think, how will AI transcend outside this peninsula? Because it's going to have to, and it is, but it's going to be painful for a lot of other industries, because it's not a natural way of thinking. The product design isn't necessarily a natural way of evolving, and what you're describing is so important for us to change, for us to be more mindful about how we present things for the recipient, to have the most effective use of what we're giving them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So, yeah, you're the stuff I love. Because what you guys are doing is changing industries and changing cultures. You're gonna flip the world on its side.
Go.
Right?
It literally has to be.
And it has to be.
We've all got to be
And
part
I
of that.
think the thing that it has to happen, and I feel more secure that someone is gonna lead it, so that we can at least put some guardrails around it. So we can, and it's not your guardrails, we don't want it to be your guardrails, it's let's all come to the table so we can start to have those conversations, right? So that is what I love about it, that somebody's saying, all right, let's all sit down at the table and start to have the conversations. So, so I think clearly we're all seeing we have new questions to answer now as a society. I mean, I don't know if y'all saw, yesterday was my birthday. And,
Happy birthday.
And so Sam, my buddy Sam.
Yeah, he gave you a big birthday
He
present.
gave me a big birthday present. Oh my God! I was like, when I saw that there was going to be an announcement on Monday, I was like, "Thank you, Sam." And so
He just had a
release.
birthday too, I don't remember what day, but he was,
Oh, I didn't
he gave
know
a speech and it was his
May baby.
birthday.
Oh, I did not know Sam Altman. For those of you
Yes.
who are watching this video a year from now, Sam Altman. There was a big release on May 13th, my birthday. So there was a big release yesterday. But every time there's a new release, and now they're talking about a whole new set of, I'll call them use cases, but just what we're going to be able to do is every time, because he said before the release, he's like, it's not 5.0, and I'm like, but
What is, wow.
the stuff that we can do. So back to changing society, changing like how we think and what we do, and so the question for you, if I look at my cheat sheet, is it's about global governance, societal norms being, you know, the release and how it's gonna change what we can do. Geez, let's not go there. What impact do you see AI having on how we govern globally in the next 5 to 6 years?
So much to say. First of all, I want to comment on the fact that you asked, I think, what is the most important question, and that is what questions should we be asking right now? And reframing how we think about AI and thinking about it beyond just a tool that sits in business or in our homes that's going to create efficiency and more revenue and productivity, but rather just stepping back and thinking, this is a tool that is going to be omnipotent almost, right? So powerful. We've never experienced anything this powerful before, and it's going to be our partner. So what do we want to create with that? So I think we need to be super, super intentional and step back away from the features and the whiz bang and what it can do, and think about, what do we actually want it to do? And then that takes you even a step back to ask even really deeper questions like, who are we? You know, like, who are we as humans, and what do we actually expect about from this human experience? And kind of beginning from that, reverse engineer into sort of the world that we want to create with AI. And you know, you gave the window asking, you know, 5 to 6 years, what's, you know, society and governance going to look like? You know, the cheeky answer is nobody knows, and that's true. Literally, there's no one on the planet who knows where this is going to go. There's people who, you know, can project better, you know, have a little more information, but literally no one knows. And there's going to become a point in time where literally no one will ever know, because AI will be, you know, will have its own bit of a black box there. But I do think that 5 to 6 year window or point in time is where we're changing from, where I think the most amount of change is going to take place. I think that's going to be sort of on the cusp of a lot of change. Sam Altman actually, he says a lot that AI is going to change less than we think in the short term, change us less in the short term than we think, but way more in the long term than we can imagine. And that's, you know, we just literally can't even imagine. And so I think that 5 to 6 year window is when that's, you know, we're gonna get out of that, it's not changing so much, to things are gonna really start changing at that point. As it relates to governance, I think, you know, I don't want to take up too much time because each of these are big topics in and of themselves, but I think, and what I think is important, I think where it's gonna go is we're gonna have like supranational governance bodies, cross corporation, right? We can't have all these microcosms, because everything is literally going to be connected and influencing each other. And if we don't have these uber governing bodies, governance bodies, yeah, we're not going to solve anything. So I think that's one trend that we will definitely see. And then in terms of society, I think it's what matters is what we do in the next couple of years, and how we are shaping AI, of how we end up in 5 years from a societal standpoint. Again, it comes back to how are we intentionally shaping it within this short window of time. And this window of time that I use, you know, if you talk to technologists, some will say it's already too late, AI is off doing its own thing, and you know, we don't have much influence. Others will say, oh, we probably have maybe about 10 years till AGI, or artificial general intelligence. But there's, you know, a median somewhere, you know, around, let's call it 2 years, 18 months, 2 years-ish, that a majority agree is the window of time that we have to be super, super intentional about shaping AI. And that's what we're, I think that what we do in the next 2 years is going to influence where we end up with society. What I'd love to see is that healthcare improves, education improves,
Absolutely.
health span improves, We're freed up to be more human, to spend more time with each other versus the isolation that social media has created, right? There's a lot of wishes there. And that is possible if we get really intentional about making sure that AI gets the assignment, so to speak.
You've been doing some cool community-led dinners. How do you, and those are dinners, those aren't necessarily yet initiatives, but they're gonna lead to that. How do you think community-led initiatives are gonna lead to broader scale changes?
It's the only way. I mean, we have to work on this together. If there's, one assignment for humanity, this is it, and we have to work together. And what I see both in the dinners that we're hosting, but also just in any kind of cross-functional conversation about it, that the different perspectives that are brought to the table, there's always something fresh that comes up. And a premise of the film, or one thing that we'll see in the film, is that we literally need to be bringing all these different voices together, kind of almost creating a global cross-disciplinary council, right, that's helping make decisions. So I think you need everybody from, yes, you need the technologists, yes, you need the business leaders, yes, you need the lawyers, but you also need the ethicists, the spiritual leaders, those who are helping us understand what it means to be human and what we actually want. And so bringing that, I think, is just key to the community, bringing the diversity of perspectives. And then you get to examples like, representation of different groups. So, there's an organization, Women in AI, there's an organization, Black in AI, and those are helping ensure that AI is representing, their perspectives and their needs. And then, the UN even sees this so broadly, and if there's one organization that comes close to the Global Council, it's the UN, and they're partnering with an organization called AI for Good, which is basically helping ensure that we're applying AI to solve the UN's, the sustainability goals. So I think there's broad recognition that community is really, really the only way, because we don't have time. So,
Perfect. So I'm giving you guys a 3 or 4 minute heads up, because I'm gonna do a lightning round now. These are always fun. And then I'm gonna take questions. We're gonna take questions from you guys for the panel. So the lightning round, while we're doing that, if you guys wanna think about some questions that you might have, that would be great, okay? So, ChatGPT and I did a little work. Come up with some questions for you guys for a lightning round, so it'll move fast.
I won't peek.
It's always tools. You always start with tools, right? So, what's your favorite? ChatGPT, Claude, or Copilot? Go.
I use each of them for different
Oh,
reasons.
no,
I do.
Pansy,
I have
Pansy,
them open.
Pansy.
Okay, Claude.
Okay.
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Good girls. Okay. All right. Next. Which would you trust more with a secret? An AI personal assistant or your human best friend?
AI personal assistant.
Hands down, AI personal assistant.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Says a lot, doesn't it? Yeah. And that goes with the release yesterday.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Right? Yeah. These were before the
Humans
release.
have foibles.
Yeah.
And that's what we don't want encoded in AI.
Right. Good. All right. If you had to take a road trip, and this goes with what you were just saying a minute ago, if you had to take a road trip with an AI, which would it be? A self-driving car AI or a robot companion?
Robot companion.
Robot companion.
Self-driving car.
Good. Yeah, I'm neutral on that. I could do either. All right. For your next project, who would you rather have on your team? An AI that can predict market trends or an AI that can innovate new products?
Market trends.
New product innovation.
Yeah, I figured
Products,
that. Yeah, I knew that.
Stereotype,
Right,
yeah.
We were
We already laid this out.
Yeah, I could have, right. Okay, so, if you couldn't participate in the process, which would you choose to select your organization's next mid-level leader underneath you? An AI algorithm loaded with your preferences, team profiles, company culture and values, and other goodies from Simon Sinek around, or your HR recruiting team?
Oh, totally the first.
First.
First, the former.
Absolutely. Sorry, no
Yeah.
offense to all the HR people,
Yeah.
but man, there's some serious brokenness
Mhm.
right now with recruiting and HR.
But, and I think that goes to some of the efficiencies that we will start to
Yeah.
learn to leverage in hiring processes.
In my case, it would be adding the headcount that we don't have. So we don't have an HR group. So,
But to release,
yeah.
there's a lot of time that goes into the
Yeah.
hiring
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
That,
But there are nuanced factors that you can contribute to
Mhm.
that too, right? It's
Mhm.
not just black or white or numbers or
Yeah.
facts or figures,
Factoring in.
right? If you
Simon Sinek.
Mhm,
and-
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
and last one, when it comes to daily decision-making, would you rather have suggestions from an AI based on data, or advice from friends based on experience?
The daily?
Wow.
Daily decision-making.
I would feed the friends' decisions into the
This is the friend's experience.
It's a hybrid answer.
Yeah.
right?
Which friends?
Yeah.
Absolutely experience, because experience has nuance.
Mm.
That always might be hard for sure.
I
Okay,
think so too. Yeah.
okay.
Good.
Awesome
Thank
question,
you.
though. Challenging.
That's
Thank you for
Yeah.
participating. It was
That's
fun to
fun.
pull
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
from
It's a great question.
ChatGPT, my favorite, so good,
Wow.
good. So, we didn't say the word community as much as I thought we would in that. But I think clearly cross-functional, cross everything,
Cross-discipline.
and nowhere did you guys appear to be single thread. Nowhere, anytime recently. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, what questions do you guys have for these guys? Because what they're doing is so remarkable.
I have a question, which is how do we keep it neutral in that everybody has a voice? So women, BIPOC community, because right now some of those communities might be leaning in,
Yeah.
but mostly it's not.
Right.
Mostly it's it seems like men are driving a lot of the programming, and we talk about not having things be biased, and we talk about things it going off the rails. And we want to make change in our policy, but do we? We seem to want to have policy, but that's a very United States-centric thing to do, and frankly, planet Earth thing to do, which is let's give it some guardrails. Not saying that's right or wrong, but how do we allow it, if we want it to be something and serve us in some way or partner with us, how do we set metrics in place that allow that to be? And we classically in our society will set up rules and doctrines that we think will govern us, and we move forward and forget to update them. And we're all living under many of those now, and they clearly don't serve us. So it feels like if it's not ever evolving with us, there's multiple questions here, of course. If it's not ever evolving with us, how can it possibly be serving us and keep up with us? I mean, the whole concept is how do we keep up? So, in framing, how do we get the seat at the table? So I'll go back to that. And then how do we create doctrines that can evolve with it as we go forward?
May I jump in
Please.
with the response?
please.
To me, it seems like Anthropic has a really good first step on that, the Constitution
Okay. Great.
and a great model, and maybe it will need to be continuously updated every 2 years or something, but it seems like a really great foundation.
Absolutely.
And
Agreed.
exciting to,
Yep.
Agreed.
It has to be the will and the intention behind it to set that up as.
yeah, will intention piece is the,
Well, an intention
Tricky
to start,
part.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
look around the world, it's like, where's the motivation,
Yeah.
where's the
Yeah.
leverage to have governments and actors out there
Mhm.
decide to do that, and I mean, it's anyone's best bet there.
I mean, we look at governments as being the, in quotes, governing body. They screw up a lot of things really quickly, but then when things are going badly, like there was a national calamity, we quickly turn to them to say, come save me. Well, we already know they're dysfunctional, but they can marshal resources and quickly put a lot of stuff on the ground, or quickly-ish, to help. But then it's like, if we give them this responsibility or some seat at the table, I mean, how up to speed are they, how tech savvy is our government in fact? Not so much.
Not so much.
So there's clearly a dichotomy there, but I think that, having AI sort of aid in its own decision, but it can't really aid and abet itself, because that would be really dangerous and scary. But
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe
it'll
not.
be better at it.
Yeah,
It'll moderate itself.
Likely.
Yeah.
Likely.
that's true.
Which would be cool to see.
Yes.
It's well behaved. Humans are not.
Right.
Exactly.
It's a little more
Yeah.
consistent at least, right?
Exactly.
If nothing else.
We have to tell it now.
Yeah.
Don't do
Don't do
that.
this.
Or we do this
I
with
think
it.
that's where this notion of super governance that you spoke about is gonna be so impactful. But I think it starts now too with teaching leadership again. We
Yes.
stopped
Yeah.
teaching
Yeah.
leadership
Yes.
about 12, 15 years ago.
Yes.
And
Yes.
really reestablishing that with the college age
Yep.
band
Yeah.
and making it a priority for how character is developed.
Yep.
And young adults
Yep.
will be the start of people wanting to be leaders. I don't think there's a culture, frankly, of people wanting to be leaders as young adults. It's not been fostered.
Right.
That
Character, you said that word and it just shot right through me, right? It's so, yeah, unfortunately, we just do not have enough character.
And conversely, or, the other end of the spectrum of leadership, I also think that, what will help is to have a lot of really clear laid out playbooks and guidebooks. We're learning something totally new. We have to go back to the 101 and the primer and learn the basics. So I think having those for different groups are key.
So guidebooks are formalities, and we have, we can't tolerate formality anymore. You're part of an organization that put together a guidebook for board level, and it's brilliant. And I think it takes that kind of thought and commitment of time to get people to think through, because maybe I'm showing my age, but it's when you adjudicate those things, and then you kind of get people in a room and they have to, have the conversations, which is what you're promoting. Let's have the conversations that you get to decide collectively what your preferences are. And I do agree that playbooks, the frameworks are important. They take time and they're worth the time.
Even frameworks of the questions to be asked.
Exactly, and I think what I'm drawing from this too is just that process is so important, because there's so many, leadership is nuanced, to go back to that concept again. There's often no clear right and wrong. Everything's kind of situational, or it can, there are lots of scenarios where it depends, and ethics are not black and white. There's a lot of gray area, and so that's I think where when you instill good process, then that's sort of the opportunity to kind of spin on it and refine it, and give it an opportunity to serve us. So yeah, even along process to inform it, but also process alongside it.
Yeah.
How do we get past the greed, just the rampant greed, right? For governments, for innovators, for entrepreneurs, for whatever, there's just, for countries, right?
It's the incentives that we have in place.
It's power, it's greed, it's all of those, which is why what you're doing is so important. But, there's more of it now, it seems, maybe that's not true, because of where we live, the innovation and the abundance that's come out of this area, right? Looking back, a century ago even, right? I mean, there were very few people who were able to have the kind of impact that we we see walking down the street here,
Mm.
right? It's crazy. It's exciting, and we've benefited in many ways from this innovation. But, you know, that drive, that focus on profit, on greed, on power, on dominance, on all of that, right? What do we do? How do we, you know, you're working so hard to right? I mean, that's why it's needed so much.
Yeah,
How
and I
do
think there's an opportunity for AI to help us rethink some of the systems that we have in place, because, they've kind of backed us into a hole where we're having to make decisions that aren't in our best interests.
Right.
Examine assumptions.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
save us, AI?
I want to thank you all. This was really fascinating. There's so many places this could go, and I'm curious to hear just a little bit on your thoughts on the saturation point, the human saturation point. When we get to that level of like, I just can't take any more innovation. I just can't think any more in a permutative way. I just want to settle on something. I think that's a very human
I've seen
thing.
plateaus.
I was
Have
gonna
you
say
seen
plateaus.
plateaus?
That's my sister.
Can we just stop and we just use this tool for 30 years?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Because it's like every month
It's hard to
there's
achieve
like-
mastery.
So, and if that continues and accelerates and it continues to be exponential, which it seems
It
like
will be.
it will
Yeah.
be,
Mhm.
how are humans gonna cope? It's like, I think a lot of people are just gonna opt out, and then that leads to more disenfranchisement and then apathy and purposelessness and all the things we're already seeing, just so much mental illness. So what are your thoughts on, I mean, I know you already talked about engagement and how you're like teaching and educating, but on a bigger scale, like the masses that are just like, I can't keep up, I give up.
That's a good question.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna jump in here too, but there's no way that, even for me and my curiosity, that I have the energy to dive into all the different things. I'm using Otter AI to take notes because I've sat here at ACG and typed out notes, and I love the fact that it's going to summarize this so I can whip out a post tomorrow for LinkedIn, right? There are things that are in my sphere, my universe, that I have discovered, and it's a tiny, tiny fraction, right, of all the tools that are out there. I think for me, the challenge is still going to be, you know, based on what your personal needs are and your capacity to learn things that make your life easier or enhance it in some way, right? You're going to hopefully be curious enough and want to have those tools, and then you'll spend the energy and time. But there's so many things, you're right, you can't possibly, it has to be enough to just have a few things that help propel you along and enhance your life, your work, your passions, your education, right? I love the fact that AI can bring any amount of information to educate people, right? There's no way we're gonna learn it all, but boy, I've got a passion for Renaissance art or whatever, and you can do that deep dive there anytime, any place now, right? That's what I'm thinking. It's personal.
More customized.
It's customized and personal. You don't have to learn it all, and you don't have to feel that pressure to learn it all.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I actually think yes, and I think there's also an element where the natural kind of throttle back point will be on simply societal adoption, and so where we net out is just you know, on kind of how much. I mean, you know, there's I think even just in the U.S. alone, there's radical technology disparity, and so I think, you know, kind of the natural, you know, point, the saturation point might be simply like, what can we as a country or as a globe kind of you know, adopt. And even I think with you know, with businesses, it's like, you know, companies are going to realize that they all, you know, all of their teams need to be learning, you know, foundational work with AI in order to compete effectively, because if they don't, you know, all their competitors will be. So I think, you know, the saturation point might, you know, just sort of be arrived, you know, kind of arrived at organically based on, you know, what our peers are doing, and what kind of we can, yes, individually learn and apply, but you know, I think there's almost kind of a built-in control, you know, based on at some point, you know, like, you know, kind of, I think this is the question that you asked me earlier, you know, essentially we were discussing the kind of divide, right? The technology divide, the language divide, and ultimately, as I was saying before, it's more about the value that the thing provides as opposed to the thing in itself. And so I think there's the tendency to feel like this is just going to be a runaway train, and it will be, but we also I think have to remember that there's sort of just as a society we can only kind of embrace so much change at a certain pace, and so you'll always have this kind of disparity of the super tech elite forward trying every new tool as soon as it comes out, and the people who are maybe a bit slower to experiment, or and some of that will also be determined by what their institutions, what their banks offer them, or what their schools offer them, and so yeah, I guess I sort of see it as like there will also sort of be these kind of built-in levers and throttles.
I think it's a great question, because we literally cannot handle the pace of change that's happening, and it will. So we literally can't. So I agree that what Renee talked about with getting more personalized, and these personal agents that are going to be with us very soon. I think that's a way they'll kind of filter out all the different tools. It'll feel less like all these tools and more like just your personal experience. But I would add, and that which is why, again, I focus a lot on sort of the humanity of this. I think it's less, I think we have to be thinking more about how humans are going to fare with this, and what is what is it about being human that we really cherish, and that we want to almost ring fence for ourselves in this new world with AI, so that we can flourish in doing what we do best, and kind of offshoring to AI the things that we weren't really designed to do, but we are doing. And mental health and all of that. There's there's so many mental health AI startups right now for that very reason. It's I think you nailed what's really the most important thing to be thinking about is the technology will get developed and it's going to develop itself, but are we developing ourselves? How are we decoding ourselves so that
evaluating and
Yeah.
appreciating who we are, because we're not computational beings.
Right,
only.
right.
There's so much more.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's where we need to be.
But
putting
how
our-
we
It'll just
use-
be more and more and more. We will simplify too.
Mhm.
I mean, and I hate to sound so simple, but I remember when the microwave was introduced. I remember Sunday dinners in my granny's
That
house
was so exciting,
in
wasn't it?
Tennessee, and she had no less than 16 dishes on a tiny little table when she was serving her family of like 12 or 14, after Sunday dinner. Dinner, by the way, was lunch in the South.
Yeah.
And I mean, she would fix 14 dishes. There wasn't room for people to eat. That was the dishes on the table, and they were all fixed in pots and pans. And then we got the microwave, and it changed everything. It simplified a lot.
The calculator, everybody freaked out. Everybody's gonna cheat.
Yeah.
Well, it allows you to actually do work that matters instead of the rote, tedious,
And that's
right?
grossly oversimplified,
Right.
but we will
Yeah.
simplify things. Right now, I think we're just going through this phase where everybody's got an idea and everybody's launching an app. For God's sake, everybody's launching an app. I've got a blue pen. It's a great blue pen. But to the point that you guys made, we will start to see the consolidation and things becoming much more manageable and useful. Not just I've got a
And we
blue pen
have to.
anymore.
Right?
We have
to work on that. We have to. That has to be sort of
Yeah.
part of the assignment. if you
Yeah.
will.
I mean, I look forward to the day the robot is cooking. Sunday lunch, and it's who was it? Judy? Was it Judy of the Jetsons or
Yeah.
or
Oh,
the
that
space
came out,
Lost in
yeah.
Space? And it's like here's the roast, but yeah, I think robotics is going to open up though. I can't wait for robotics to become mainstream in the home, and the simplification that will bring to all of our lives. I think we're gonna have, some amazing times. in
Maybe
that
one
Even
for
the
future.
Roomba was
women.
revolutionary.
For housework women.
I was just gonna say, even the
So,
Roomba
yes,
was
please.
revolutionary,
So we are over our time. I'll go ahead and wind it down because we're over our time, but we can close it. And, you guys, if you have any questions, I'm sure that they'll answer them after we close. So thank you. It has
Thank
been
you.
fun.
Thanks very much.
We
Thank
could
you.
sit and talk all night.